Hi, everyone. Welcome to Two Guys Talking Sports. It's been a stressful football season, so we decided we're going to sit back on the recliner couch and relax a little bit going into the playoffs.
Being a Gamecock fan, man.
Luckily, we got some good high school teams that we cover.
I know, right?
Before we get into it, this show is sponsored by First Citizens Bank. All your banking needs, go to them. Car loans, mortgages, business loans, they handle it all. So make sure you go and see anybody at First Citizens Bank if you need some money, and I need some of it. So let's jump into it. Final game of the regular season.
Yep.
And DCS goes out on a high note, 55-28, huge win for the Warriors. They had their starting quarterback go out.
Yeah.
Obviously, they had the bye week this past week, so we knew they had 2 weeks to kind of figure out how they were going to move forward.
Yep.
They moved Jackson Atler to quarterback, and seems like it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, they. This was a game, that I think on paper DCS knew they should possibly win. When I was at the game on Friday, I mean, Tom Sumter had some big boys.
Right.
It's like that eye test, like when you're playing basketball and you see they've got like two players that are 6'3", 6'4".
Yeah.
It's kind of intimidating. But man, give DCS credit. I mean, heck, dude, give Landry credit. I don't know if he's the sole play caller. I don't know if Coach Stanley gives him free reign to do whatever. But to lose your quarterback like you did, 95% through the season, you kind of have to tinker your offense to Jackson's abilities. Clearly passing isn't his strong suit, and there's nothing wrong with that.
He still had 128 yards and two touchdowns passing. So
yeah, they were some big plays. But yeah, give credit to Landry and that offensive coaching staff.
Yeah, 439 yards for Jackson Atler total, 253 on the ground. Like I said, 128 through the air. Sean Locklear had 121 yards catching. C.J. Bailey had a punt return, for a touchdown. So they're scoring in multiple.
They have some athletes on the team. They really do.
Amir Boston, 70 yards rushing, also had an interception. So they were doing it on all sides of the ball, offense, defense. When you can play well in all three phases of the game, you're going to win some games.
Yep.
They do have to go down to Dorchester.
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked about it before. I can't stand Dorchester. I definitely couldn't stand playing there. They line their trucks up and they'll cut the lights on and they do some illegal stuff.
Yeah.
And, last time DCS played, it was a monsoon.
Yeah.
It was only a 12-0, loss for DCS. So
Wynn got the best of
I think
me.
that they're definitely playing better here towards the end of the year, even though they lost their quarterback. Seems like they got a suitable replacement to try and make something happen.
Well, especially when you have the threat of his run game.
Right.
This is a game that was perfect for DCS, gives them a little bit of momentum.
Yep.
Heading into the, final week of the season was last week, heading into the playoffs. And we can say this about all our teams. Everybody's 0-0 now.
Yeah.
It's a brand new season. You don't know what the playoffs are going to hold, but you got to kind of carry that momentum you have from that big win over Thomas Sumter into this Friday, because it's not going to be an easy test.
Yeah, I think them being able to score a lot of points and do what they needed to do after having to make that transition to a different quarterback, that's going to bode well for them. So hopefully they can get that. Like I said, all you got to do is get into the dance, and anything can happen once you get there.
And especially in Skeeza, we'll talk about this more later, but there's not many games you have to play in Skeeza playoffs.
Dillon, they continue doing what they needed to do, 62-14. Of course, Marion Fling, he just, he's unstoppable. 268 yards rushing, 6 touchdowns. Josiah Oxendine, 8 for 12, 136 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he kind of continues to stay in that range of throwing, right where they want him to be.
Yep.
Let Fling do his thing, have Oxendine throw the ball every now and then just to, keep the defenses honest. Yeah. Obviously, Georgetown's not a formidable opponent. I don't think they had won a game all year going in. So definitely a tune-up game for Dillon.
But it was close. It was 14-14 for a little bit. And then
probably like the first 3 minutes.
It was Dillon put the pedal to the metal after that.
Sometimes with these games, you'll have that where you just know you're going to beat the opponent, and you just come out sluggish, and then it's like, all right, it's 14-14. Let's stop playing around. And obviously they did. So huge win for Dillon.
And with
wasn't unexpected though.
Yeah, and with the quarterback position, like we said in previous episodes, it's you got to keep them in that range where it's like, if you need them when these playoffs get going, he's he's been in that situation before
Yeah.
where he's comfortable passing the ball.
Yeah, I think, and as the playoffs go on, you're going to have to throw the ball a little bit. Maybe not first round. North Charleston is who Dillon will play. It'll be a home game for the Wildcats. Yep. Probably not, the most tough competition they'll face round one, but
yeah,
you still got to go out there and win the game.
Exactly.
So like I just mentioned, Dillon will be in the playoffs first round. I think they got home field throughout.
The way I interpret the brackets, and like I said, we can get more into this, but Dillon should be home throughout the playoffs. Yeah. And technically, I mean, the higher seeds can be home if there's some upsets, but I think Latta will be home possibly the first two rounds. No, maybe the first two rounds, and I think Marion's maybe first two or three.
It's hard to
games.
It's hard to tell because a few years ago they did it that even if you were the one seed, you had to go on the road at some point.
Yeah, well, I know they rotate regions who gets the home field advantage.
It's weird,
and there could be upsets.
Yeah, exactly. So Dillon will be at home this week for first round of the playoffs. Marion in the Tobacco Bowl versus Mullins this week.
Yep.
This went exactly how we thought it was going to go.
Yeah.
41-8 victory for Marion. They just continue their dominance.
Yeah.
They've done it all year. They finished the season with one loss, and it was a loss to Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
Which obviously they were playing up a level, so that was not anything to be worried about because Marion obviously the next week just bounced right back to doing what they do.
It's just like Dillon losing to Hartsville this
exactly.
year.
Marion, like you said, they're going to be the one seed. They should have home field through the majority of the playoffs. So outside of Dillon, I think that Marion is probably the most formidable team that we cover going into the playoffs. I think they have a really good chance at making it to state.
Yeah,
probably going the whole way.
Yeah. The way I'm looking at the bracket, if Marion wins and there's no upsets, Marion will be home the first two games, and I think they'll be away the third round.
It's just weird how they set it up.
Yeah, but and they would eventually, if that third game, if they make it there, they would be playing, if everything goes to plan, would play Oceanside Collegiate, who's, I think, top one or two teams in 2A.
There's always some negative connotation with that Oceanside team.
But, I mean, and then, another thing for Mullins, it's a disappointing season, but I think it's a lot to build off of. I think, like we said, first year, don't know too much about the coach coming in. You've got to get the players bought in.
Yeah.
So hopefully big and brighter things are coming for the Auctioneers. Everything I've heard about their coach seems like he's a great guy.
Yeah,
seems
he's
like
just got
respects him.
He's just building a foundation for this season. I think Mullins will be a lot better next year,
especially with small towns like we are, like with Dillon and Latta, Lakeview, Marion, and Mullins. Like we're small towns. Everybody kind of knows everybody.
Yeah. And
when you've got a coach that comes in that not many people know, I guess there's a little hesitation with everything. But I think Mullins is going to be okay. Tough season, but nothing to hang their hats on.
Yeah, I agree. I think Marion's going to make a good run here in the playoffs. Yeah. Lakeview took on Hannah Pamlico, another tune-up game going into the playoffs, 27-0 for Lakeview in that game. Latta, a tune-up game for them this week. They took on Green Sea Floyd, 41-16. Jamarian Jones, he's kind of like Fling. He's been consistently having a great year, all year. 170 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. LeBron Cobb continues his excellent run as well.
Yeah.
Latta's playing well, and they're doing it, the way that they want to on the ground. Mm-hmm. Again, they're going to be one of those teams that eventually we're going to have to throw the ball a little bit more, I believe. Yeah. But they're kind of set up here in that 1A where you don't have to throw it quite as much. Yep. You can kind of get away with it. Being a run-heavy team, I think that Latta, I would say they're probably number 3 on the list of teams that we covered that probably can make a run here in the playoffs.
This is if the way the bracket reads, and like I said, we can discuss more. But if Latta wins and there's no upsets, this will be their only home playoff game. Yeah.
And then PD, just wrapping it up, we thought they were going to come back, take that momentum coming off that huge, trending video victory that they had.
I think it's close to 4 million views.
Yeah.
Now,
But they fall to Florence Christian 32-20. Kind of disappointing for them going out on the end here. But Florence Christian was a team that, not having a great year, but having a little bit better year than PD per se. But PD's still in the playoffs.
Yep.
Again, anything can happen once you get there. Speaking of the playoffs, let's jump into it. Sponsored by City of Dillon Wellness Center. I know they got a lot of stuff coming up. They've had the trunk or treat. I know that's kind of gone past, but on top of the wellness center and the golf course, they've been doing a lot of stuff with the parks now.
Yeah, which is good.
It is, because they just built a whole new. We went yesterday.
Yeah, I was about to say I saw a Snapchat.
Massive slide.
What park is that?
That's the one on 8th Avenue, Harmon Park. Yeah.
Okay.
They built one.
So the one near Kiwanis.
Yeah, obviously they had the park at the Wellness Center, which is great for the kids in the splash pad. And they've been updating all the parks, and I think, and they quietly have been doing it. There was nothing in, the Dillon Herald and stuff like that about it. No posts. They just said, hey, here's a new slide for the kids.
And it's us on citizens to take care of the park.
Right.
So
I
the
agree.
kids can have something to go to.
Exactly. So you got the Wellness Center, you got the parks, you got the golf course. So there's definitely stuff for people to do out and about that the City of Dillon is doing. They also have events,
Doing a lot downtown.
Exactly. All right, let's jump into it. Round 1 of the playoffs. DCS is going to travel down to that terrible old Dorchester.
I'm just going to let you take the reins on this one.
It's in
Speak your
St.
feelings.
George.
Speak your
Can't
feelings.
stand Dorchester. I hope that DCS takes this momentum that they've built here towards the end of the season. I hope that they take this newfound offense that they got with Outler and his ability to run and throw the ball a little bit. Unfortunately, Dorchester is undefeated this year. They're 7-3, but they beat DCS 12-0.
Yeah.
In the first game. Again, that was a monsoon game, so nobody could really get anything going. So it's hard to get a gauge on, what these two teams actually look like playing each other.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a close game again. And just because I hate Dorchester, I'm going to pick DCS. It's a heart pick.
Yeah.
Because my head telling me, obviously, Dorchester's playing the better team. I just don't like Dorchester.
Yeah.
So I'm going with DCS on this one. Hopefully they get it done.
I kind of agree with you. I was at the game a little bit, when Dorchester came to Dillon. The wind got the best of me, but both teams couldn't really run the offense that they wanted to. So I think DCS still had Avery at the time. But with the wind blowing like it was, you can't really pass the ball. So you could zero in on the run. One good thing I will say about DCS, especially on their defensive staff, it takes them a couple plays, but they normally will adjust to whatever offense the opposing team will run. I think with having Jackson at the quarterback position gives them a little bit something extra, because I know Avery I don't think his knee was very healthy at all throughout the season. So it kind of limits what you can call in terms of if you want to run some quarterback like draws or runs or anything like that. I think Jackson's athletic ability, they've got playmakers on that side of the ball as well. I think DCS pulls an upset.
I hope they do, because I can't stand Dorchester, and I want to see the boys shock the state here a little bit.
Because people that I've talked to for both their Skeeza teams, nobody's picking them to win.
Yeah.
And honestly, all you have to do is win one game, and you're in lower state.
Exactly.
Got to win 2 games to make it to state championship, and the state championship games are in Charleston Southern this year.
Right. PD will take on Hilton Head Christian. They've already played once this year. Hilton Head won 38-0. PD was looking a little bit better here towards the end of the year, obviously with the big victory. They stumbled a little bit in the last game. I think Hilton Head Christian is just going to be a little bit too much for them.
Yeah.
Having to travel again all the way to Hilton Head and then take on an opponent who already knows you, already beat you handily. Unfortunately, PD's had a lot of highs this year, but unfortunately, I think that this will probably be the end of the run for them this year.
Yeah, and when I was at the game a couple weeks ago, their starting quarterback didn't play quarterback position majority of the second half. And I was talking to one of their coaches, and I know I think he was sick. He had he took a hard hit. So I don't know if he played quarterback last week or not. But Yeah, I'm gonna go with Hilton Head Christian. I hate to say it. I think Hilton Head Christian is like the odds-on favorite to win the state championship this year in the 3A division for Skeeza.
Yep, I agree. Dillon will be at home taking on North Charleston, who is 4-6. They're on a 3-game losing streak. Dillon is just
A quarter max prep,
rolling.
so I'm hoping that's all true.
Dillon's rolling. They're going to continue to roll.
Yeah.
This will be an easy victory for Dillon.
Yeah, I was looking at the bracket. If Dillon wins Friday, they will play the winner at home of Camden Dreer, which if they play Camden, that's going to be a tough game.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to the regular season, Camden played Hartsville pretty close,
Right.
kind of like how Dillon did. But towards the end of the game, that's just when Hartsville took over.
Yeah.
But I think as long as Dillon is at home, they've got the advantage throughout the playoffs.
I agree. Anytime that Dillon can be inside those white walls, it's tough to beat them.
Yeah.
Marion is also going to be at home. They're taking on Central Pageland. They went 3-7 on the year. Marion beat them 34-7 the first time.
Easy.
This
win.
I'd say it's an easy victory for Marion, but this is where Marion stumbled last year. They had a great regular season. They just ran right through the regular season, got to the first round of the playoffs. I don't know if they just weren't focused or kind of what happened, but they stumbled in the first round of the playoffs last year. I think that they've learned from that. Obviously, they're led by like 12 seniors that start in various positions for them. They like I said at the beginning of the year, Marion's got that bitter taste in their mouth from having a great season last year and then stumbling in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They've got the experience. They know what that felt like. I think that Marion comes out with a big victory this week. They're going to make a statement here in the first round to let people know we're not messing around this year.
And I know last Friday was senior night for them. I saw a bunch of pictures where there's a lot of pictures of football players.
Yeah.
But you take that experience from that defeat last year, those players don't want to end the season like that.
I agree.
Not after the regular season that they've had.
Exactly. And then Latta, they will also be at home taking on Allendale Fairfax, who went 4-5 on the season. This is a game that Latta should win. They can't take, Allendale Fairfax lightly just because of their regular season record. Again, it's the playoffs. It's 1-game seasons. Anything can happen. You got to go out. You got to be focused. You got to execute your game plan. But I think Latta wins this one and moves on.
Yeah, I think Latta wins as well. You got to depend heavily. Like Marion needs to depend heavily on Quaysheed Scott.
Yep.
Gabriel Cusack. Latta needs to depend on
Jamarion
LeBron
Jones.
Cobb, Jamarion Jones.
Yep.
Don't go away with what got you here, and just come out the gates running. I mean, you can't try to skate by when playoffs start.
Exactly.
So,
and then finally, Lakeview will travel to take on Well Branch, who finished 7-1 on the season. I think this is going to be a tough one for Lakeview. Number one, they got to go on the road. They're taking on a pretty good opponent in Well Branch. I think Lakeview can win this game.
Yeah.
They've got the talent to win it.
it's the passing
Anytime
game.
you get Lakeview into the playoffs, anything can happen.
Yeah.
But they've got to be able to hit a few passes. If they can do that, I can see a way for them to win. If they can't throw the ball any, it's going to be tough for Lakeview to win this game. And just looking at the season as a whole, they've been run. They can win. If you got to pass, it's tough for them. So I think, unfortunately, I'm going to take Well Branch in this one. Yeah,
you never really know with these 2 to 3 matchups because Latta and Lakeview were in a pretty tough region this year. I mean, Lakeview played Hannah Pamplico last week. Hannah Pamplico's in the playoffs. It's a pretty tough region. If Lakeview can get the run established, I think they'll be okay. But like you said, if they have to depend on their pass towards the end, like they did against Lamar, that's where they struggle. I'm gonna go with Lakeview just for the factor of it's Lakeview, it's the playoffs. I'm gonna go with the Wild Gators this week.
We'll see.
Yeah, it's you just never know. We don't know too much about Well Branch.
Exactly.
I know they have a pretty tough region. I think Allendale Fairfax is in the same region as Well Branch as well. So you just never know, man.
Just to run back down, round 1 of the playoffs, we got a lot of teams in it. We got a lot of teams I think that can make a run here. DCS will travel on the road to Dorchester. PD will travel to Hilton Head Christian. Dillon will be at home versus North Charleston. Marion will be at home versus Central Pageland. Latta at home versus Allendale Fairfax, and then Lakeview will travel to Well Branch.
We got 3 at home, 3 away.
Yep, a lot of teams in the playoffs. Again, it's a one-game season. Anything can happen.
Especially in skis, 'cause like I said, you win 2 games, you're in the state championship.
Exactly. So if you're traveling, make sure that you go somewhere local. Maybe get some to-go food or some snacks.
Yeah.
Gas up local. And then if you're going to these home games, support those the concession stands, especially now because the schools don't make anything off of the tickets.
Yep. I think they still not split it anymore in the playoffs?
They may, but they don't make as much. Let's put it that way. They're not making as much just on you showing up and attending as they were. So definitely concession stands is where these schools are going to make the money for having to cut those lights on and have these teams out there. So make sure you support them. And then make sure you go, but make sure you get there. Make sure you support these teams. They fought all year to get to this point, and this is where you want to be. Is in the playoffs.
And this make or break. There's no lose, and there's always next week. This is it.
Next week isn't promised. You got to go out and win. So good luck to all the guys and coaches this week. Is there anything that Landry wants to say before we cut out? He seems nervous for the game.
Yeah.
Again, 3 teams on the road, 3 teams at home, 1 game season. Support these guys.
Yep. We'll have the post up on Fridays. If y'all are going to the away games and you follow the channel, or if you know somebody that follows the channel, put the score updates in the comments. We do our best to try to find the scores to keep everybody updated, but sometimes it's tougher. Maybe it won't be as tough now that it's in the playoffs. I think that's when people start following it. But thank y'all for the support all season.
And then just to close it out, I know we always talk football, but those girls have been doing a lot this year. Volleyball, I think Lakeview's still in the playoffs. I may be wrong. Don't quote me on that. I know that Latta had a great season with their volleyball team, so shout out to them.
Yep.
I think it finally did come to an end this past week, but I think that Lakeview is still in the playoffs. If they are, good luck to those girls.
Yeah.
It's hard enough to cover high school football and find stats and stuff, so that's why you don't really hear us talk about the volleyball.
And there's a lot of odd stats for volleyball.
Exactly. So, but congratulations to all of those girls. They put in a lot of hard work too. I just didn't want to let it go by this whole season and not mention the ladies as well.
I feel like I saw something where I know when I was at the Latta game earlier this year, I was talking with a friend of mine, and they were talking about how the Lakeview and Latta's volleyball teams were pretty dang good.
I know that Robbie Brown shared pretty much all of Latta, so I would see his post, and I saw where they did make a run in the playoffs, and it kind of fell short here. But I'm pretty sure that Lakeview's still in it. If so, go ahead and make a whole run at the state championship. So
go get that
if I'm
thing.
wrong, congratulations on a great season.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next week. Hopefully we'll be covering 6 more teams. If not, we'll cover who's left.
Exactly. Thank y'all.
We'll see you then.